Hello and welcome to another episode of Time About the Movies Flashback, where today we're flashing back to June 10th, 1988, where we're taking a look at three films in particular. So let's go ahead and get right to them. Let's start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin meeting Lily Tomlin and Bette Midler in the comedy Big Business.
Touchstone Pictures presents two Bette Midlers and two Lily Tomlins.
I am not a twit.
They're two sets of twins who were mixed up at birth.
That happened to me once.
Two sets of twins who finally meet their match.
You're not my sister. And you're not my sister. How'd you know?
It's the comedy where two's company and four's a riot.
As long as you keep them bound and gagged.
Big Business. Rated PG.
So Big Business pretty much shows you everything what the movie's about right there. Basically, Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin are a set of identical twins mismatched at birth, and the nature versus nurture farce that adapts the comedy varies by William Shakespeare, but with female siblings in contemporary society, one of each twin being weird into a wealthy urban setting and the other growing up in a poor rural environment, and hilarity and hijinks ensue. I mean, it's very interesting that this movie has the same cinematographer and the same editor as the Back to the Future trilogy, Dean Cundey and Harry Karamidas, because of course the Back to the Future sequels coming after this would feature a lot of the same thing that this movie has, where you have two actors the same actor in one scene, but playing two different characters, and of course that's what used a lot in the Back to the Future movies. But this is a film that features that concept here. It's directed by Jim Abrams, his first film working outside the Zucker-Abrams team, and it's an interesting movie. It's a film that should be a lot funnier considering the talent that they have in here. I mean, Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin are very funny comedians, and they've worked well in movies beforehand. You also got Fred Ward in here, Edward Herrmann, Michael Gross, Mary Gross from Saturday Night Live, who I guess are related. I never knew that, but coming out of it, it's just kind of like, why am I not laughing as much as I should with this movie? I mean, there are some fun ideas to it, and I don't know. Like, to me, the one that is I don't know what it is, but I just didn't get as many laughs as I thought I would from this. I mean, it's a fun concept overall here, but it gets a little bit too complicated for its own good. I mean, it definitely feels like a film that really, it feels like a film that is definitely very much a movie that has some good concepts to it, some ideas to it, but just way too much going on throughout the course of the film. The script is too all over the place. The jokes really aren't hitting as much as they should. It's a film that you think would have so much more going for it, considering who's on board on it, but it just doesn't really go to those levels that I think it should go. And I mean, how funny is it that the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito movie Twins, where they're nothing alike, proved to be much more funnier and much more simplistic than this movie should have been. I mean, that just tells you a whole lot about like how one project looks like it's going to be so easy to work on, and then it's not, and then another project seems like it's no way it's going to work, and then somehow it does. And Twins, I think, did that job a whole lot better. But I'll give them credit for what they had to do here. I mean, like I said, it's got the same editor and the same cinematographer from Back to the Future, showing you what they would do later on with the sequels. So I guess there's some fun aspects to that. I mean, it has some good ideas overall, just not enough execution to really make me say it's one you should definitely check out, because it really is not. And Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin have been in a lot of much better movies than this movie. And Jim Abrams has been involved with a lot funnier movies than this. But this is just like, I wasn't really getting a whole lot of laughs from it, quite honestly. So that's Big Business. So let's go ahead and move on to the next film, and that is Sean Connery and Mark Harmon in the thriller The Presidio.
A murder will unite an army colonel and a streetwise cop.
What we've got here is a multi-jurisdictional investigation.
This is my command here.
The only thing tougher than solving the crime is having to do it together.
You think that Lawrence is the only one involved in all this? Deal with CIA.
Academy Award winner Sean Connery, Mark Harmon, The Presidio, rated R. Now playing at a theater near you.
So in this movie, Mark Harmon plays a civilian police detective, and Sean Connery plays this lieutenant colonel who was his commanding officer several years before when he left the military police over a disagreement over the handling of a drunk driver. Now, a series of murders that cross jurisdiction forces have them working together, and Austin is also now dating his daughter, who's played by Meg Ryan, and it's not helping the relationship at all. And you can see where it goes from there. This is directed by Peter Hyams, who gave us some really good movies. Some really good fun movies we've talked about, Time Cop, Sudden Death, The Relic, He's a decent director. He's a decent action director overall. I think this is one of those ones where everything was there. There are some good pieces all the way through, from the casting to the concept overall, but the execution just really doesn't work well at all. It really reminded me of a lot of Big Business, kind of the same thing too. The pieces are definitely there, just not the story just doesn't is not good enough to really carry the movie all the way through, because it's a very generic storyline, and the action really does not give you a lot there to work with here. It's not really that deep of a movie either. It just feels like a film that's just like, hey, we've got these two big actors. One's a vet. One who's toy boat. One is a guy who just won an Academy Award the year before for The Untouchables, and the other is this red hot young star, and let's just put them together and see what happens. And again, I think a better script really would have probably helped this movie in the long run, because the pieces are definitely there for something really good, but sadly, unfortunately, that's just not the case with this movie. I mean, the pieces are there. There's a lot of good promise with the stars involved, but it's just not enough to carry the movie overall, and it's really a letdown of a movie when it's all said and done. So, not much more to say about that one. That is the Presidio. And speaking of letdowns, let's talk about the last movie that we have here, and probably one of the biggest letdowns from a series that started off so strong early in the 80s, but now it's come to this. This is Poltergeist III.
Some people are afraid of heights.
Just don't look down.
Others panic in elevators. Some have a thing about mirrors. And no one likes ghosts. Now, the movie with something for everyone. Poltergeist 3, rated PG-13.
So yeah, Poltergeist 3, the third and final installment of the original Poltergeist series, where you have Carol Ann once again, who is once again being terrorized by malicious spirits while staying in her aunt and uncle's apartment in the John Hancock Center in Chicago. Which, I will say this, there's a trailer out there for this movie, which, I mean, it's a cool concept overall, and I get the creep factor, but it's one of the weirdest trailers I've ever seen for a horror movie. I have a little bit right here, I'll show you.
Guess who's back in town?
Santa Claus? Is the spirit going to be Santa Claus and he's going to possess the little girl from there? It's like, what the hell does that even mean? Like, guess who's coming to town? I mean, I don't understand what the concept is of that line. I mean, it felt like they were kind of running out of ideas of how they could sell this movie. I mean, that's the one thing about these movies, is that they have really good marketing campaigns. Like Poltergeist 2 has that great trailer for that movie to show that you know, they're back, and you know, the original Poltergeist sold itself very well too. But this one, the concept is there for a good trailer, but just that line right there, it just feels like someone said, we need something for this we need someone for the narrator to say. We need to give Percy Rodriguez something to say to make it at least sound cool. It's just like, okay, I guess who's coming to town? Perfect, let's get to it. And even he couldn't save that line. I mean, that's one of those ones where... And Percy Rodriguez is one of the great trailer voices. I mean, he can make the Jaws trailers for the worst movies in the series sound more awesome with that voice of his. I mean, watch the Jaws or the Revenge trailer and you'll see what I'm talking about. But anyway, I'm talking mostly about the trailer here. But let's talk about the movie itself. And like I said, the concept here is that the building that is the Chicago John Hancock Center is possessed with the spirits who still want to go after Carol Ann. And you know, the history behind this movie, of course, we got to talk about what happened with Heather O'Rourke, because shortly after the film began shooting, she became ill with flu-like symptoms, and she basically completed filming of the movie, and then she went back home to rest up, and then, unfortunately, she became ill again at the beginning of 1988, and she died a couple weeks after she got the second run of this illness that she had. And she had just turned 12 a month before this movie, before she passed away. So there's so much going on there. The film had already been completed. In fact, that trailer I was talking about said it was going to be a PG-rated film, but they basically had to reshoot the ending again. And because of that, they had to like scrap the original ending that they had, where one of the characters jumps through the glass plane in the window, and the whole thing was that because they had to reshoot everything, they had to resubmit it, and the film actually ended up becoming a PG-13 movie because of the reshot ending. I mean, they basically had to redo the whole ending again because of this, and you know, it was just part of that poltergeist curse that this film had. I mean, there were so many things going on with these movies. It's just like, it's hard to believe like there wasn't really a curse there. I mean, Heather O'Rourke died from complications from a bowel obstruction, and then of course you have the other stories that were revolving around this movie. Dominique Dunn, who of course in the first movie was the daughter of the first movie, she gets killed by this by her ex-boyfriend. I mean, there's documentaries from E! About the curse of poltergeist from all these people involved. Like who's the other guy? In Poltergeist 2? Julian Beck, who plays the Reverend, who's actually in this movie. He died shortly after completing Poltergeist 2, playing the villain in that film. And like, there's so many. I can go on to so many different details about that particular. It's about the curses that this movie had. I mean, but why? But why? I mean, there are a lot of better people out there who could really go through that for you. But I just think it's very interesting that this series in particular had so many different things going on with with the curse, and all these people just dying of these unforeseen circumstances. Just like, wow, man. Like, but Poltergeist 3, man. But like, despite everything I've said about the other movies, which I think the first movie still is very terrifying. I mean, the clown alone in that movie still. I still get chills just thinking about that the first time I watched it, because I'm not gonna lie, the first time I saw Poltergeist, it was like little bits and pieces. I was flipping channels one time when I was about maybe 10, 11, 12 years old, and then that scene comes up with the clown and all that. It's just like, as soon as that clown shows up, it's just like, okay, I'm switching the channels. It's like that scared the bejesus out of me. And Poltergeist 2, I've only seen little bits and pieces of, but Poltergeist 3 is one of those movies where it's just like, I think Siskel and Ebert pretty much summed up the movie very well. I'm not going to show the review here, but they basically say that it's more laughable than it is scary. Every time, like take a drink every time somebody says the words Carol Ann. I mean, you'll be dead by the time this movie's over if you do that. And they're screaming it out. It gets to the point where, as they say in the Siskel and Ebert review, it's just like you just want to join in and start screaming as well. Carol Ann, Bruce, Patricia. It's like, that's not the reaction I think MGM wanted from this. I think they wanted this movie to be just as successful as the other two movies so they could continue this going forward. And yeah, that wasn't going to happen, especially with everything going against it. I mean, the universe was basically telling you, this is ending right now. I mean, we're gonna take this girl, we're gonna take the lead star out, and we're gonna make this movie as laughably bad as we can. And this is how it ended. 6 years after creating one of the most terrifying movies ever, this is what Poltergeist had been reduced to. And yeah, Poltergeist 3. So I've talked about it long enough. It's one that you should avoid like the plague. I mean, just stick with the original film, be done with it, and you've seen a pretty good movie, because the sequels, from the little bits I've seen from the second one, which I've saw the little bits of, and this movie in particular, there's no real reason to go on and see any more of these movies after the first one. I mean, I don't even see the remake, which was also awful too. I mean, just stick with the original and be done with it. I mean, you get enough what you need in that movie. There was no reason to make this into a franchise of films, because after the first one, there was just nothing there. And Poltergeist 3 was the bottom of the barrel, hands down. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies Flashback. And next time, we'll flash back to the start of June 1988 with two movies, including Tom Hanks' big breakout role in Big, and also Chevy Chase in the comedy Funny Farm. So, two movies will start off the month of June next time we meet on Flashback. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the place on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. So, with that said, I'm off. I will see you guys next week, and until then, as always, take care.